Mom took a drag of her cigarette and stubbed it out in the ashtray. Her mouth was pursed and tight like a bright pink sphincter. Ew, like why are you writing that? Hello, welcome back. Thank you for watching this. I know it's been like a few weeks since I uploaded my last video, and I'm sorry about that. I have had a very busy past few weeks. First thing, I got hired for a job, so that was taking up a bit of my time. I had to train, and also it's a night shift at a hotel, so I don't really have to do that much, which is nice. So that means I can like edit these videos or write or read and get paid for it. The benefit of having a screwed up sleep schedule. And the second thing is I had to go up to my sister's apartment to move her in to a new one with her boyfriend. And so I had to do that. So I didn't have a lot of time to write, but I did have a lot of time to listen to audiobooks. I don't think I physically read anything. I listened to 4 audiobooks this month. And then TikTok recommended me another picture book. So I count that as reading because I literally did see the whole thing. So yeah, that's where we are. So basically this is just going to be a wrap up of everything I've read this month and also what I want to read in May. So before we start, I think this is good to do at the beginning of my videos, just, you know, to help me out. If you'd like, I would really appreciate a subscribe, a like, and a comment, and for you to ring that notification bell. It really helps out a small channel, it helps with engagement, and just helps me being able to keep doing this, having a good time, making content for you all. So yeah, thank you if you decide to. If not, that's cool. Thanks for watching. Anyway, let's get into the wrap-up. So the first book I have is Renegades, and I finished this pretty early on in April. It was a, like, what's the word? A fall over from March? Whatever, you know what I'm saying. So yeah, I read most of this in March, but I finished it in April, and I really enjoyed this. So Renegades is about these two opposing sides of the people with superpowers. One is called the Renegades, and the other is called the Anarchists. So the Renegades had beat the Anarchists in a fight years before and have now created a whole society where superheroes run everything. If you need help, they come. They basically run the government, everything like that. And we follow Nova, our main character, who is an anarchist, one of the last remaining anarchists, and she wants to destroy the Renegades and make anarchy a thing again. And then we follow a renegade named Adrian, who has this like alter ego called the Sentinel, and no one knows that he is a Sentinel, and he's kind of been messing with things, and people don't know whose side the Sentinel is on. But Adrian only wants to help. So when Nova gets an opportunity to infiltrate the Renegades by winning a competition, she goes right for it. And basically, it's about Nova trying to get the Renegades disbanded and Adrian trying to hide his identity as the Sentinel. And there's a lot more, but that's kind of a basic overview. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it a lot. My dad has read all 3 of them and he says it gets even better. So I'm excited to continue with this series. So the next book I read, I do not have physically, but I listened to it on audiobook, and that is Hollowpox, the 3rd in the Nevermore series. And I loved Hollowpox. I mean, I love all of the Nevermore books. They're like my new favorite thing. Such a fun, whimsical middle grade, magical school story. Since this is the 3rd one, I'll just give you an overview of the first book, which is called Nevermore, The Trials of Morgan Crow. And if you think that sounds good, for my synopsis, you should pick it up. So Nevermore follows this young girl named Morgan Crow who is said to be cursed. And she is blamed for all the local misfortunes that go on in her town. And if that's not bad enough, on her 11th birthday, she's said to die. But when her 11th birthday hits, she is swept away by an eccentric ginger man named Jupiter North to a world called Nevermore, where magic and mysteries exist. And Morgan must compete in trials to stay in Nevermore. And if she fails, she'll be sent back to her home to meet her fate. So yeah, it's just wonderful. I feel like a lot of people have talked about this. It's like one of the biggest middle grades right now, but there is a reason. It's really good, and I would definitely recommend you pick it up. And I loved Hollowpox. I gave it 5 stars because, well, how can I not? I just love the Morgan Crow series. All right, so the next book I have is Iron Widow by Zhang Zhejiao. I really enjoyed this one. I gave it 4 stars, and I listened to this one on audiobook, and it was very entertaining. Like, my God, I could not put this down. Like, I had to know what happened next. And one thing I liked about this are the characters are kind of unhinged, like all of them, and they're not exactly good people, but like you understand their character motivations. But sometimes it's kind of like refreshing to read about characters who are not supposed to be like, oh, we always make the right decisions and we're such good guys, because I would not say these characters are necessarily good guys, but I liked them. The only thing I can say, which is a little bit of a caveat to what I just said, is that I felt like the main character was a little Mary Sue-ish, just a little bit. She had like that, I'm so badass, like I'm so cool, and like everyone was kind of obsessed with her and the world kind of revolves around her. But it worked for me. Like, I thought it was still a really good story. So Iron Widow is about this world where these people use their spirit power to control these really large robots to fight against aliens that have invaded their world. And in these giant robots, there are two people piloting, a woman and a man. And the man is like the one who pilots it, and he kind of takes all the energy away from the woman. It's a very misogynistic society, and there are a bunch of rules in place to keep women down and not allow them to seek their full potential. So Zetienne tries out to become, I think they're called concubine. Don't quote me on that. The concubine of this really famous pilot who killed her sister to get revenge for her sister. And when she tries out and he picks her, she realizes she has much more spirit power than she ever thought she did. And it's just a really, really fun story. If you want something just to keep you entertained and to fly through, I would definitely recommend this book. So the next book I read in April is We Are the Ants. I liked this one. I gave it a 4 stars on Goodreads, but really it's probably like a 3.75. I have some issues with this book. Particularly, I thought it was extremely vulgar for no reason. Like, the amount of times masturbation was brought up, like, I would say at least like 20 times. And it's like grossly brought up. I can find some lines for you that were just like, what? My mind wandered, and I fantasized about the end of everything, about watching all the Marcus McCoys of the world die horrible, bloody deaths. Not gonna lie, it made me want to masturbate. What the fuck? Mom took a drag of her cigarette and stubbed it out in the ashtray. Her mouth was pursed and tight like a bright pink sphincter. Ew, like, why are you writing that? And there's like 50, 60 more where that came from. Other than that, it was cute. I thought there was kind of a lot of trauma dumping in this. Like, the main character went through so much, and like, you can't help but feel for him, but I also kind of felt like the trauma was like a little glamorized. It just felt a little excessive to me. It had a good message. I liked that it was a queer story, and I really enjoyed the talk about suicide in this book and how it was handled. I thought it was really good, and I thought that it was a really realistic depiction of how people deal when someone close to them commits suicide. So I thought that was really good. If you want to read this, I would definitely look at the trigger warnings. This book is not what I expected, and overall it was good. Not my favorite, but it was good. All right, and the last book was a book that was recommended to me on TikTok. And not recommended to me, read for me on TikTok. It was a picture book. It was called That Flag, and I thought it was really good. It was a children's book about racism and the Confederate flag and what that means, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it a 4 out of 5, but if we were just going on picture book standards, it would be a 5 out of 5. But I feel like for me, picture books wouldn't really get a 5 out of 5 for me, just because they're not like as deep as novels to me in my rating system. But it's probably the best picture book I've ever read, that and The Giving Tree. All right, and now I thought I would get on to books that I am going to read this May. So the first two are long overdue. I've been rereading Legendborn for about like 3 months now, and I just haven't finished it because I've been listening to a ton of audiobooks because of Libby, because I get the audiobooks on Libby and there's a hold, so I only have like 14 days to read it, and I'm like, it's gonna go away and I'm gonna have to replace it on hold and wait like 2 weeks again. So I've been trying to, you know, finish audiobooks first. I really want to finish Legendborn. I love this book so much. It's one of my favorite books ever. Like, this and Six of Crows are like my favorite YA fantasy books I've ever read. They're just brilliant. Everything is wrapped up so well. The characters are fantastic. The world is amazing. I think Tracy Dion is a genius. Like, I'm actually serious. The way she writes this book and how she just ties everything up so perfectly at the end. It's like nothing I've ever read before. And then after, I want to finish Bloodmarked because this series, the sequel came out I don't know, I think in January. Don't quote me on that. I haven't read it yet, and I need to because I'm obsessed with this. And who hasn't read the sequel yet? Me, apparently. These two I really need to finish. I really need to finish in May. So Legendborn is about this girl named Brianna Matthews, whose mother has just died in a tragic car accident. And she's accepted into a high school student program at Chapel Hill University. And to escape her grief, she ends up going. When she's there, on her first night, at a party, she is attacked by a magical, like, demon thing. And she realizes that there is this secret organization of demon hunters called Legendborn, and it has to do with King Arthur. This is just so good. If you haven't picked it up, do yourself a favor. It's just one of the best things I've ever read. One of my favorite things. 5 out of 5 stars. I'm obsessed with it. I think about it all the time. So yeah, pick it up, please. Do yourself a favor. All right, so the next book I am listening to on audiobook, and I am, like, pretty far in it, and that is Call Me By Your Name. I have had this book for, like, I want to say 5 years, 6 years, and I've still not read it. I think I'm scared to read it. First of all, the movie destroyed me. I have a video on it on my channel if you want to watch it. It was like 5 years ago, but you can still watch it. I was much younger then, and I was very much destroyed. I was like a young, gay, sad, lonely boy who had never dated anyone or had any, like, experience, you know, in the dating scene. And I was like, oh my god, why can't that be me? You know, like, teenage angst. I was also hesitant to read this because my sister read a little bit of it and she said she didn't like it and that the writing style was very, like, academic and, like, you know, a book you would read in school that you would get bored of. But actually, I really like this. I actually really enjoy the writing style. I think it really evokes that summer feeling, and I really like all the angst that Elio, the main character, has in his obsession with Oliver, which is kind of an obsession. And I think it just gives a really good, I don't know, vibe to the story. The prose are very beautiful and very, very, like, in his head, and we're just kind of following what this boy thinks and how he's literally obsessed with this guy. I know how it ends, and I know what's coming, and I'm preparing myself, but I really like it so far. It's a long overdue read. So the next 2 books, I see they are coming up on Libby soon. Like, I have a hold for them, and it's like 4 more weeks they'll come, or 2 more weeks. And sometimes they come earlier, so I'm anticipating that I will be reading these in the month of May. And the first one is Zachary Ying and the Dragon Emperor. So this book is about a boy named Zachary who has been raised in the West and has learned nothing of his Chinese heritage. So Zach is woefully unprepared when he realizes he hosts the spirit of the first Chinese emperor. And now Zach must, with the help of the first Chinese emperor, close this portal to the underworld where demons are laking in, or the world will be destroyed forever. And it just sounds really fun. I'm very excited to read this. It's short too. It's a middle grade, so it's gonna be short. And I'm excited. I really liked Iron Widow. It's by the same author. So yeah, we'll see what I think. And the last book I have is Children on the Hill, and this is a thriller. And this one has been given to me on Libby 2 times, but I've gave it to the next person because I was listening to someone else. So I'm assuming this will come pretty fast, and I have nothing else really to read at the moment. So this book follows these 3 children, and it starts where this brilliant psychologist takes in this young girl who is very skittish and fearful. The 2 grandchildren have this club basically where they pretend to hunt monsters, and they invite Iris in. And Iris knows all too well that monsters are not just imaginary, they are real. And then years later, this podcast host goes to Vermont to investigate the disappearance of a young girl who is said to be taken by a monster. I think that sounds really interesting, so I'm excited to read this one too. It will be one of my first thrillers I've ever read. I'm trying to kind of dip my toes into most genres, just because I think it's good to have a well-balanced reading list. Especially for me, I'm trying to be an author. I want to make sure I know all good stories, not just the ones I'm writing, because, you know, stories are universal and you can learn stuff from any of them. So yeah, that is this one, and I'm excited to read it. I will tell you what I think when I finish. All right, so that is it. All for my video. I had a lot of fun filming this. I will be back soon. But yeah, I would really appreciate a like and a subscribe and a comment once again, and for you to ring that notification bell. It really does help. And I guess that's all for me. I will see you with the next video. Bye.